Welcome everyone to another exciting StarCraft 2 broadcast from LastPlayerStanding.com's SC2 Open 3rd Season. I'm Anaris, and today's best of 3 is going to be between RevDoctor and GoSuGatored, Terran versus Protoss on GSL Dual Site. GoSuGatored should sound familiar for those of you who have been following my channel recently, as he did play a best of 3 match series between him and Fruit Dealer. Of course, Fruit Dealer, a very skilled player, definitely an entertaining match. If you have not seen it after you're done watching this series, go check that out. Like I said, it's at my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on the Last Player Standings YouTube, it's just youtube.com/AnarisStarcraft. I promise you'll enjoy it, so check that out after you're done here. So, GoSuGatored, he is definitely a strong player. He was actually ranked number 10 Grandmasters near the end of Season 3, which was about when this game was played. And RevDoctor, likewise, around the end of Season 3, he was ranked number 1 Masters in his division. So both players, very impressive. I'm sure we're going to have a good, solid performance here today. As on this map, you see it's pretty, I'd call it a medium rush distance between the two players' bases. I don't think it lends itself super well to early pressure, but I think that in particular there are areas which are more vulnerable to it, like if the Protoss goes for an early expansion on this map without actually making sure that the Terran is not going to be going for early pressure, which the potential is there for him to do so with this gas going down, then, you know, the Protoss could be very much so punished for that. But we see him opening up one gas gateway, very standard play so far. He is using the Chrono Boost on his Nexus, again, very smart move, and he does have the probe up here. The Terran has not scouted his opponent yet. Probably not expecting to see too much at this point. Very likely that once the Protoss came down here, he would scout out the gas and just know not to go for that early expansion. So the Terran really did need to send his scout out super early. He does have that FCV going out now, which I think is a pretty darn good timing to be heading out at this point. You know, it's before the Cybernetics core is out, so that means the Stalker is not going to be able to deny the scouting there. And as we watch this probe head out, you notice that it came out just at the right time to avoid that Marine. Again, very good play from the Protoss. So both of these guys showing very smart tendencies early on here. And with the Protoss currently sitting still on one gas, I'm kind of wondering if he is actually going to try to go for that expansion. You know, he was probably saw that gas and thought, okay, well, the potential is there for early pressure, or he could be going for a 1-1-1. That's something that is pretty powerful on this map, seeing as how they're fairly close to one another. And so, you know, the common build with Protoss is to try to get up an expansion, get a robotics facility, and maybe get an Immortal or Colossus, kind of depending on what the situation calls for. And of course, using Stalkers to kind of harass the Terran player as much as possible. Nice slipping up the probe into the base. He spots that second barracks right there. So that's going to rule out the 1-1-1, but it does show that there's a barracks with a reactor on it. So he is going to anticipate possible early bio pressure with this tech lab on the way, and we're going to see some possible early Marauders. I'm going to be looking to see if he's going to be going concussive shells or if he's just going to go ahead and go straight to stem. If we see concussive first, he might look to put a little bit of pressure on earlier than if he were going for stem, which would of course be just a little bit later for an attack. So right now we do have the Protoss getting ready to head up here. This is pretty much just to try to whittle down the Marine numbers a little bit. He knows he's not going to be able to do any serious damage, but of course, you know, if he can pick off a couple Marines, if just by losing the shields on a couple units, then hey, that is absolutely worth it. But he saw that Marauder, knows to withdraw very quickly. So there's that concussive shells on the way, and okay, now Protoss has a little bit better idea what's going on. Terran is going to be moving out. You see that upgrade is just about complete. With that second Marauder on the way, he might actually decide to go ahead and attack with it, although building additional Marines as well, so we'll of course keep an eye on that. Expansion going down now, second gas as well, mining from that, and 2 additional gateways. Now that warp gate technology is going to be done in just a second or two. We do see the Terran player continue to run around the natural expansion. This is pretty much just seeing if he has any pylons around that he needs to worry about. Don't think he's too worried about hidden tech or anything of that sort. I think he kind of has an idea of what he's facing up against, and that just would not really be in the picture. But we see he's actually staying in his base. Kind of an interesting play here, going for that early concussive shells where, you know, he would have had a slight advantage facing off against this. Yes, the sentries would have been able to put down force fields, but he could have denied this expansion very easily and set GoSuGatored back. So all in all, I think both players are still on relatively decent footing, with his own command center going down about, 80-90% complete there, and the second geyser as well as the factory. I think we could expect to see just a typical Marine Marauder medevac play transitioning into Ghosts at some point here in the near future, but the Terran is playing really defensively. So I'm really wondering if he's going to try to do any sort of harassment in the mid-game, possibly drops here. You see this mineral line is fairly exposed. A lot of the forces are hanging out kind of in between the natural and the main, so there would be a little bit of a reaction delay there, but with an observer on the way, he's going to be able to spot what's going on. He's going to see up here, okay, here's a starport, here's a reactor building on the factory. Again, this is very common play, very common transitions. For almost any Terran player at this level, and overall I think both of them are sitting in a great spot. So we see minerals for both about equal, 34 to 30, gas the same, and APM for those that actually care, 90 to 85 right now. And as far as units lost is concerned, not really so much this game. Just think a couple Marines and an SCV, a probe, that's about it. There goes the scouting SCV right there, and notice how the Stalker is actually heading a different direction. I think it's pretty smart that GoSuGatored sent that out in addition to the Observer, and also has the Zealot there as well. So this Observer is actually going to come down here, and he's going to spot Marine Marauder, and probably, by the time it gets there, hangs around for a bit, probably see the medevacs popping out as well. So with the engineering bay going to be going for those infantry upgrades. Again, this is all just playing according to plan. RevDoctor just continuing to transition into his mid to late game strategy. We do have GoSuGatored continuing to run around with the Stalker. I do like the placement of that pylon there. It will provide an opportunity for GoSuGatored to do a counterattack against the Terran player in case he decides to, in case the Terran decides to move out. If he can catch the Terran out of position by throwing a few Zealots into the mineral line while he's way midfield, then that can be really devastating to his economy. But it looks like he's actually going to spot that, running right to it, actually. Very impressive, good sense to be heading around. Very smart for players. Even if you have an army and you're not really looking to engage, it's still very wise to just run around your base, see if you can find out, okay, is there any pylon? Are there any free units that I can just kind of go and chase down? Any little advantage that you can get can really help you in the long run. So weapons 1 currently on the way, as well as combat shields. We see a nice amount of stuff coming for the Terran player. As well, the Protoss has a very sexy spread up here. All the sentries are in a bunch, so this is kind of vulnerable to an EMP. Oh, that poor Marine, man. I bet you he just hated his job. Just cursing the name of RevDoctor every second, running up here to his death. But now we do have the Terran Observer getting ready to come up here, and we do have a drop as well in the main base. Very aggressive play now, as a couple Zealots are going to be warped in. You'll see that about half the force is being kept up there, while the remainder of it is being brought to the mineral line. This, again, is a good move. He knows that this was not a very large force coming at him, so he wanted to make sure that he would not leave his expansion undefended in case the rest of it actually decided to attack. Now this Observer running around, just getting an idea of where the rest of the Marauders and Marines are currently standing. And notice this drop over here is still in position to go make a run at the mineral line. GoSuGatored very wise to keep his forces back here just enough to drive off a medevac, potentially shoot it down before it starts unloading. Kind of depends on where the unload command is actually given. But you'll notice there's only one medevac here right now. That second one is coming to reinforce, as one medevac can run out of energy so very quickly, and really don't need it over here when you've got 2 ready for that drop anyhow. More Stalkers being warped in as well. You've got the Colossi range on the way, going to be able to increase that from 6 to a very long range of 9. Weapons 1 as well as a second forge. And we do have the Twilight Council. I think we could actually expect to see Zealot Charge and Blink kind of research. Most likely Blink first, because, again, going for these Stalkers here, he does have to worry about drops, and having Blink, having that increased mobility, I think will help him at the biggest in the short term. And, of course, Zealot Charge will be a little bit more long term when he's got his army a bit beefier and is ready to directly engage the Terran army. He does also have to worry about EMP, so for now, again, like I said, Blink, very good choice. We'll see, of course, what happens as it is now finishing up here. This forage is actually not doing anything right now. We'll keep an eye on that, and more Zealots being warped in as well. So back down here to the Terran player, notice how GoSuGatored still has this Observer hanging out, spots this expansion. He knows he's in a little bit of a trouble if he does not get a third base going here, or if he's not able to come out and can't force this one to cancel. And if you look at the worker count, 51 to 50, so that drop really didn't set the Protoss back a lot. But notice how he's got 4 Vikings right now, so that will be enough to deal with the 1 Colossus that is currently in the fight. I believe there's a second one. No, never mind. My eyes played tricks on me. I thought there was a second one over here. Another drop coming in the main base. This time, the Protoss is way out of position to deal with it. Nice warp into the Zealots. Very close, using the probes to attack as well. You see that the bulk of the army is actually getting ready to possibly move against this right here. I'm really anxious to see how that goes. Cannon has finished. That should actually wrap that up. Oh, no. As I was not expecting him to try to burst that down quite so quickly. I thought he was actually, I thought the Protoss was going to force an engagement and kind of distract from the cannon itself. But you see those units continuing to press forward over here, and all the while the 2 armies dance here on the minimap. Again, not really able to find a good spot. I think actually this might live as well. Oh man, these are like seriously the longest living group of infantry I have seen in a long time. These guys just keep on killing and doesn't afraid of anything. Down to 2 Marines, 2 medevacs. We're going to see this finally end, I think, on a good note for GoSuGatored. But look at the worker count. That was absolutely devastating. 28 to 50, now 30 to 50. Here comes the Protoss now trying to engage. Force fields have gone down. Nice hit with the Colossus, and the Vikings are going to see that drop down very quickly, leaving the Protoss army very vulnerable. GoSuGatored gives the GG. Great play by RevDoctor, bringing this game 1 to an immediate halt. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Very interesting matchup indeed. We're going to be heading to game number 2 now, as RevDoctor moving into it with 1 game under his belt. He's going to be feeling the pressure. Can he push it 2-0? Or are we going to see GoSuGatored come with the comeback? We'll have to wait and find out.